For a long time, success in law has narrowly been defined as making partner, climbing the corporate ladder, sacrificing personal life for billable hours. But what happens when women in law decide to rewrite that definition for themselves? In this episode, I'm spotlighting the stories of women who walked away from the traditional legal path, not because they couldn't hack it, but because they chose something different, something bigger, something that aligned with their version of success. Let me introduce to you Helen Pamely. She walked away from prestige, a safe salary, and a partner title at a London law firm to one day deciding that this wasn't the version of success she wanted anymore. So she quit. Here's her story.
That morning, I just felt shit, really shit. I was just really fed up. You know, I started out as this really top lawyer. I was at Linklaters, I did a few years there, and I was, I had a great career there. I was a high achiever. I was top of my game. I was doing so well. And I decided to leave there to sort of try out a different firm, to try out different things. I was sort of told that I'd be working on claimant side litigation more, that it was going to be more cut and thrust and exciting cases, more responsibility and all of this kind of stuff. And without going into too much detail of all of that sort of stuff, it just didn't happen for me. It didn't happen. I was only there a few weeks. It wasn't what I had been expecting or wanting. So that's the reality of it. And this kind of threw me into a bit of a state of turmoil in the sense of, I think with law, I'd always been looking for that thing that made sense to me. That thing where I'd feel like, oh, yes, this is the career for me. It's what I've always dreamed of. I suddenly have found my meaning and my purpose in life. And bit by bit, I slowly realized that I was never going to find that as a lawyer. And that's a big thing to stomach, right? Because at that point you think, oh crap. So now I'm realizing this thing which I'd pinned all of my hopes and dreams on isn't the thing. That's not my purpose. And I think when you're not coming from any place of purpose or any place of meaning, or at least for me, it made every day so difficult. Why am I pulling these difficult hours? Why am I putting up with this rubbish? Why am I putting up with that guy being a right work? Why am I putting up with all these politics? Whatever it is. Like, why am I there? Why am I doing these cases that actually deep down, it's just a job? And the only thing that really got me through at that point was listening to Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul Sundays, which have, incredible podcasts. It has all these amazing thought leaders, spiritual people, religious people, actors, actresses, you name it, they're on there. And they live their lives with purpose and depth and have had these incredible experiences and incredible wisdom. And it was hearing those people's journeys, their voices, which got me through those really dark days, thinking, just how do I feel more connection in a life that felt quite meaningless and disconnected? And at that point, as I walk up the non-strand, the word we don't know, the street we don't know, I was on the phone to my dad and I was just so fed up. And I had reached that point and I just said to him, Dad, I don't think I can do this anymore. And there was this long silence on the phone. Like, it's freezing cold. It's a January morning. For some reason, I hadn't got my earphones in. I can remember because my fingers were freezing off. The phone sort of stuck to the side of my face. Long silence. And I never expected this. My dad said to me, then you'll have to quit. And in that moment, it actually makes me quite emotional remembering it. I was just so grateful that I'd finally been given that permission to pack in this incredible career, this prestige, this money, this everything else, and just leave. And I went in that day and I sat at my desk. I wrote my resignation letter. And I walked to the senior partner's office. And they were really surprised. I've been doing a really good job. I've been working hard. I'd had enough. And no one could believe when they were asking me, oh yeah, where is it you're going? Everyone thought I had some big secret and had found a better offer. No one could believe that I had nothing else lined up. It was the best feeling in the world. I'd finally found freedom.
Next, we have Natalie Thomas. She went from studying at Oxford University to working in Tesco in southwest Wales, to then being part of the founding team helping launch the London office of top US law firm Perkins Coie. Here's her story.
I always kind of knew I wanted to go into law, but not enough to actually study it. So I studied history, but I'm from like a very small town in Wales where I don't really know a lot of people. Well, I didn't know anyone that did law, and the people I knew that went to university they stayed quite local. And then one day I decided I wanted to apply to Oxford with the help of an organisation called Zero Gravity. And Zero Gravity like matches up low opportunity students with mentors from the university that they want to go to. And at the time, it's just Oxford and Cambridge. So I had a mentor that went to Oxford, and then got into Oxford. I just didn't really get the memo that you had to apply for like spring weeks or vacation schemes in the first or second year. And then all my friends kind of rocked up and had these vacation schemes. And then I just felt super behind. And then in my third year, I didn't bother applying for anything. I think one, because I was scared and I didn't want to get rejected in my final year. I just wanted to focus on my studies. So then I graduated Oxford with no job, went back to Wales, worked in Tesco. And I just felt kind of like flat, to be honest, because literally all of my friends that studied law got Magic Circle and top US training contracts on their first go. So I just felt kind of like a failure. Yeah, so I had to move back home. Just thought, okay, I'll take a year out, figure out what I want to do and maybe apply on this year. And then Zero Gravity contacted me about a position as a founder associate. And it's kind of like an LBA, really. You work with a founder on all of their kind of projects that they're working on. And the founder of Zero Gravity asked if I wanted to work with the chairman of Zero Gravity, who's called Ian Bagshaw, and he had his own advisory company after leaving White & Case as the global co-head of the private equity practice. I just took a chance. I was promised that I could go to Switzerland, so I was like, why not? It's better than staying here at Tesco. So then, I started working for Ian. It's supposed to be for like 6 months, then it turned into a year, and we worked on loads of different things, like advising startups, doing investor outreach for startups. And then one day he was like, oh, I want to go back into law. Started talking to Perkins Coie, and then I kind of transitioned to Perkins Coie with Ian. But we were there right at the start, like pitching ourselves basically to the firm to be the ones to build out the London office. So yeah, that was really cool. So always kind of interested in law, but my route into it wasn't exactly conventional. And yeah, now I'm here.
Next, I want to introduce you to Dana Shaker. She went from the traditional legal path to intentionally creating a career path that was made for her, a remote digital nomad lawyer working on the road. Here's her story. I know that you've done a lot of traveling around the globe over the last few months. How do you manage doing your workload whilst also traveling and trying to have a good time at the same time?
It's a great question. It's like the question for anyone who's interested in, especially in digital nomad lawyering, right? Because we have clients, where we need to be on meetings and be accountable. So I will say I've done 2 different styles of traveling in these last couple months. And I think I spoke to this on the last podcast where we did together. I was in Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, and then Panama for a week. But this was over the course of a month, maybe 5 weeks or so. And that was very fast travel. 7 cities in 10 days between New Zealand and Australia. And then I did a week in the Philippines and a week plus in Panama. And in that time frame, I really treated that as an opportunity to see places. And I took it more as a break in business. I was kind of like, I'll do a little emailing here and there, but I was very intentional about crafting that time was for me to explore and to journey and all of that, right? Now I'm in Panama. I'm here for 6 weeks total. I have one place that I'm in, right? I have like one location and all of that. This is much more conducive to having a work day and having a work schedule, right? So for people who are interested in, if you have your full client load and you're traveling, I would say for sure to plan for at least, 6 weeks. I think more like 2 to 3 months at a time is a good time frame in a place, because then you get to settle in, you get to know the community, you get to like take day trips to, like, I took a day trip to Santa Clara Beach here in Panama, and it was beautiful. It was so fun. And, you get to have that real lived experience. And you get to, do your work during the work week and, be able to serve your client. Yeah. I think being intentional about what times in business you want to travel and kind of crafting your travel around that is an important thing.
Renee Pardo is a former trial lawyer. She changed her career path after 30 years in law, and just a few years before qualifying for her pension. She is now a certified executive life coach where she primarily coaches women lawyers. Here's her story.
I've been in this career 30 years and I'm 55. I don't mind sharing that at all. So you're right. It's definitely the end. If I had stayed in my career as an assistant district attorney, another 5 to 7 years, I would actually have a pension to draw on. So a lot of people think what I'm doing is crazy or mad, as you would say, right? So it's true. I admire so much that you and the other younger women have not only the ability, but this is a great time to be, alive and an attorney with your laptop. You can literally work from anywhere and have so many more options than were available. They're available to me now too, I guess, is the thing. And I started, on my journey, I started thinking about doing something else a while ago. And when I came to the decision it was time, I had those thoughts too. It's, you might as well stay. You could do all of that when you get to that point. But I guess I sort of reached a point where I felt like it was so much center of mine. And there were so many other things that I wanted to do with my time rather than be somewhere where I really had to be in a particular office, for certain hours, not leave earlier, no matter what the work was, although I worked where there was an enormous workload. And I realized I did not want to wait until another 5 to 7 years, that the time was now to seize it. I definitely have that thought that, I might as well stay. I was able to sort of make a counter argument for all of the reasons it would be great for the next 5 to 7 years to use that in a way that I could set myself up for, the next 10 or 15 years of my life in a way that I could live and work and enjoy and never feel like I have to stop, just really love it. Or if I want to, I'd be able to. So if that kind of explains the thought process I went through.
Yeah, it was the same thought process that I went through, but obviously I thought I could continue in this for 30 years and still feel this dissatisfaction, or I could just quit now. And so, yeah, it was pretty much exactly the same. I remember when I was working in a job in an office, and I went for a coffee with my dad on my lunch break there, and I just said to him, it's a complete waste of time, me working for someone else. I feel like I'm wasting my time. I'm not doing anything purposeful in my mind. I may as well be using the time to be doing something bigger and working for myself and creating something, basically exactly what you're saying. So I totally understand where you're coming from on that. How did you get the courage to make that move?
So it's funny. I had to, first of all, really decide, and I take some of my clients, now that I am coaching lawyers, I take some of my clients through the same exercise. I had to first, really think about what it is that I wanted to do and daydream about that a little bit. And then really, even though this is all your mind wants to do, and a lot of people would say, don't dwell there, you have to go there. And the there that I'm talking about is the worst case scenario. What was the worst case scenario of me leaving? I don't make a go of my business. I don't make enough money to sustain my lifestyle or certainly do better. I end up feeling frustrated, and now I'm older. I can't have my position back. Like I let myself go there, all the worst possible things. And really, the worst thing for me was that I would beat myself up about it. Like, in other words, that looking back, I'd be like, if only I'd stayed, I would have had this safety. And I was 5 to 7 years. And I guess through coaching, I realized that if that is the worst part, I mean, along with the scarcity that I had, the worried about money, it's totally optional. That beating yourself up is totally optional. I could instead create intentional thoughts of, you know what? I'm going to go for it, and success is the only option, and I'm going to set myself up for the life that I really want.
Tara Siyosankar shares her journey of becoming a freelance employment lawyer in Canada and the reasons behind her decision to leave a traditional law firm. Here's her story.
My story is a little different from the usual. I had no intention of becoming a freelance lawyer. I had a goal to sort of become an independent practitioner in 5 years from the time I graduated, or from the time I was called to the bar. And after my first experience in a law firm, to tell you the truth, I had anxiety thinking about going back into a law firm. But what I did was I did the routine expectations. I applied to law firms, I networked, I looked for jobs, I got job offers. But every time I thought about going back into the law firm, I just got anxiety. And I went to a networking event, and there was a lawyer who was there that just clicked with me. And he asked the entire event, everyone he touched base with, "Hey, are you looking for a new associate?" Because I was looking for an associate position. And no one was. But at the end of the night, he came up to me and he said, "Look, I've got a ton of work. I know you're looking for an associate position, but I've got a ton of work I need help with. While you're looking, do you mind helping me?" And I said, "Sure." And that just took off. And after that, word of mouth just got around. And then I started putting myself out there. And organically, this role was formed. And I'm so glad it did. But I had no intention of it, but I wouldn't go back from it.
So you accidentally became like a consultant
Yeah.
freelance lawyer. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. What what made you anxious about going back into an actual law firm though?
It was the experience. Mostly, like, I love the work, I love the client interaction, but it was the experience. It was the culture, the firm culture that I didn't enjoy. I was working really long hours. I was neglecting my relationships. I was neglecting my health, and those are the two most important things to me. And so I felt like, well, I'm doing, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I'm meeting my billable hours in the week, et cetera, et cetera. But at what cost? I'm coming home on the train at 11 o'clock, et cetera. And also just the dynamic of the culture, the expectations, the way people handle conflict. I really did not enjoy it at all. And I thought, similar to your experience, this can't be it. This isn't why I came out of law school and decided to change my life. I just left. I left without having another job. It was a tough decision. It was really tough, and went on vacation, and it was heavy on me as I went on vacation. And I came back, and that was the first thing I did. I sent a resignation letter. I just couldn't anymore. And once I gave my notice, I didn't have the experience you had with, like, in the UK, I'll sue you, but it was a tough experience even leaving, right? It was really tough. I was giving up something that I love doing, but no regrets, because, like, the path I'm on right now, I'm really happy.
I'm really glad that you're happy and that you found your right path, because I feel like when you're on the right path because it feels right,
Yes, definitely. And also, the advantage for me as a freelance lawyer, and especially in employment law, is I get to do what I love doing anyway. I still get to do the research, I still get to do the drafting, I still get to do the case assessment, etc. It's just that the lawyers are my clients now. Similar to you, I work only with lawyers, and I enjoyed that. I really enjoy the interactions, and I still get to do the client service and all of that. So it's a kind of a win-win for me in a way.
100%. And I can't believe that you kind of fell into that accidentally as well.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like, sometimes people will reach out and ask, "Oh, how did you get into the role that you're in, etc." And then when I tell them, they're just like, "Well, they want to get into it. How did they get into it?" And I sort of guide them on what I did, even though it was accidental. It's sort of, well, you have to put yourself out there, and this is how you build, type of thing. And truthfully, it isn't easy. Like, I started off with a client, so I was lucky in that sense, but it isn't easy to just network with lawyers and just automatically secure a firm. You really have to connect with people and, value and nurture that relationship.
Let me introduce you to Hannah Strawbridge, founder of Han Law. She started out as a lawyer at a top UK law firm and then decided to become a freelancer before she went on to building a successful employment law business. After becoming disillusioned by the traditional law firm mentality and witnessing too many colleagues either leave the profession or burn out, Hannah decided to start her own company. Here's her story. So, Hannah, 4.5 years ago, you set up your business, Han Law. No clients, no savings, and without a salary to fall back on. Where on earth did that courage come from?
If I'm honest, I've always fancied doing my own thing, but I think having worked within, the legal industry for quite a while, within sort of corporate life and, the big law firms and doing the traditional thing, I just felt kind of time was right for a change. For me, I had 2 small boys and I was just frankly sick of trying to juggle being ambitious and wanting to, really forward my career with family life, because I think anyone that knows with kids, you naturally prioritise them, even if sometimes you don't want to, you just do. But equally for me, I love what I do. I've always loved employment law, and I just was determined not to kind of those 2 things to kind of fall down because of each other. And I just felt like setting up my own business and being self-employed would maybe give me a way of juggling both things more easily than what I was used to before.
You've got to have a really strong mindset to quit your job and set up your own law firm. Not everyone can do that. And I don't know if you even realize that what you're doing is incredible.
I agree. I think, I guess I'm strong-minded in what I want to do, and I don't mind taking a risk. If I'm honest, I was earning £50,000 a year. I don't mind, saying, as head of employment at the firm that I was at. Now, that was a full-time sort of job, and I knew what I was being charged out at as a lawyer. And to be honest, even with my very poor math, I worked out actually I wouldn't need that many clients and that many pieces of work to even match the salary I was on. So the way I saw it, to try and convince myself to do this, which would have been scary, but also I was kind of that sick of the system that I was willing to try it. I just thought, well, worst case scenario, we'll got some money from my salary. There's a lot of contacts that I know. There's a lot of people that I know. And it won't take that much work as a lawyer, independently to be able to earn what I was earning. And I just kind of thought I can give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, there are jobs, and I think as part of that process, before I did actually resign, I was looking for other roles, but I just felt they're all big jobs within law, but for the extra cash, it was kind of more of the same. And I just felt I had to go through that process of literally trying everything else first to just check there wasn't anything else where I'd go along and think, this firm seems amazing, and wow, that seems like a great package, and it's flexible, and I'm not going to be worried about asking if I can go watch sports day and things like that. And although I went for these big jobs, I just felt like they were all the same. And ultimately, it was like the only way that I'm going to change my life is to be the boss of that in a work scenario. And I think the other thing is, Holly, in my previous role, I was the only employment lawyer. So in effect, I was getting the work in and doing the work myself. So I felt like I was doing what I would be working for myself. Really, I wouldn't have a secretary, but most of it, I just, it's not like when you set up a business in products, is it? I needed very little to start off. I needed a laptop and a phone, and that was it. So, yeah, I mean, there's a number of factors, and if I'm honest now, it seems that long ago. It was only just over 4.5 years that I'm almost like I can't even quite remember how I was feeling at the time, because I think so much has happened since, and your life changes so much as well. And you think you've met so many more people, and it's always hard to kind of go back to that point. I mean, having said that, I was really nervous handing my resignation in, and I couldn't do it for a few days. And I remember it was in my desk, but one of my friends was sending me that meme of like, just do it all the time because I couldn't do it. And I was really nervous about doing that, but I think that, and I knew I would, but I'm sure it wasn't a really easy decision, but it's, to me, people lose their jobs all the time, people change jobs, and it wasn't a dream job, so why not see what else is out there? And I guess, I just said to myself, if it doesn't work out, I can find another employee role.